In today's show, we check in on the standings as the Trailblazers try to chase down the Warriors and the Clippers in their postseason pursuit. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same as Locked On Blazers. Your team every day. In today's show, we're going to check in on the standings. Now that the Blazers got Deni Avdija back in the fold and they look to be perhaps more competent heading down the stretch of the season, actually goals of climbing in the standings seem real again. So let's check in our friends to the south in California, or maybe our hated enemies to the south, the Clippers and the Warriors, and where they're at, as the Blazers have a legitimate chance still, despite the way they came out of the All-Star break, to finish 8th in the Western Conference and have a one-game chance against the Phoenix Suns to make the playoffs. It is all on the table for them. We'll check on where the Blazers are, what they've got left, what the Clippers and Warriors have been doing since the All-Star break. We'll get into all of that. And then I want to close the show with some interesting conversations I had in the locker room about the Blazers players fasting during Ramadan and the sort of the challenges both mentally and physically with not eating a lot of calories during the month of Ramadan and also playing in the NBA, which is a relatively demanding physical job. Let's get into it. The Blazers, as I record this one after I just watched the end of the Warriors game and the end of the Clippers game, the Blazers sit at 31-34, a game and a half back of the Clippers and Warriors, who are tied for the 8-9 spot, each at 32-32. The Clippers finally back to 500. They started the year 3-3. Then they dropped to 5-21, and then they have slowly crawled their way back. Shipped off James Harden in exchange for Ben Mathurin, and now they're at 32-32. The Warriors have lost 2 straight to drop down to 32-32, and the Blazers just a game and a half back at 31-34. And I think that alone is like, to be there is pretty meaningful, because when coming out of the All-Star break, the Blazers were tied with the Clippers. You know, I guess they've dropped back of the Clippers because they've been playing a little bit better, but like they were tied with the Clippers and they were 2.5 back of the Warriors. But Deni Avdija basically just like doesn't play out of the All-Star break. You know, he plays in the first game. The Blazers lose by 54. They just got absolutely punked by the Nuggets. And then Deni plays, a minute of the following game, 59 seconds. So he's essentially missed 7 of the 9 games out of the break. And the Blazers are 4-5. And now, like, if you were to look at it just sort of like the binary of like, did they win the game they were supposed to win or did they lose? I don't think they've had any like negative results in terms of just like binary win-loss. They bounce back and they play the incredibly shorthanded Suns, who just like can't score because they don't have any offense. Beat the Suns. No Grayson Allen, no Dylan Brooks, no Devin Booker. Beat a really shorthanded, just undermanned Suns team. Cool. They beat a bad Bulls team, the mini Bulls, who just like don't have size and are like kind of halfway tanking at long last, but like not actually. They beat the Grizzlies, who are no good and don't have any interest in winning, and like played their good players the night before and rested them the following game against the Blazers, as opposed to say splitting up some of their good players so they would have a chance to win both games. No. Just play them all against Minnesota and then rest them all against the Blazers. And then they beat on Sunday, they beat the crap out of a very bad Pacers team. But like, this podcast really kind of rejects the binary of win good, loss bad. Like, I think the qualitative stuff is what makes this podcast what it is, right? We get into it. So I don't like the win against the Suns, ugly basketball game. The win against the Bulls, not a good basketball game. The win against the Grizzlies, not exactly a heartening basketball game. Pacers, though, they they get their dudes back. Denny, that dude specifically, no disrespect to Chris Murray, who did play ahead of Sidy Cissoko in that game, and Sidy did not play until garbage time. He was not part of the 10-man rotation. So maybe Chris is a dude. But like you get Denny back, and Scoot Henderson has, after a really rough stretch of 4 games, the best game he's had all season long. And it's like, you know what? You're coming back up for air after a kind of maybe a little bit longer in the deep end than you wanted to be. And they're not really in that bad of a spot. Like I said, a game and a half back. And then like the schedule is going to, it's going to soften up is the wrong word, because it's not like the schedule has been incredibly demanding out of the break, right? They played some good teams. Hornets are good. The Rockets are good. T-Wolves are good. Denver's good. Like those are all good basketball teams. But they're going to play the Hornets again. That's their next game, Tuesday. You're listening to Tuesday, March 10th show. And I think like, I don't know. I've been doing this long enough to know that like it only takes one win by a bunch of points for everyone to be like, the Blazers are good again, championship. So I understand the feeling. It's like when they win, it feels like they'll never lose. So I caution maybe against saying they're all the way back. And I caution against saying the schedule is incredibly soft, although the schedule is pretty soft. It's pretty soft. It is. They have an opportunity here. And I think that's the really important thing. It's like, if Denny plays, and who knows if he'll play back-to-backs, they got a couple on the schedule, and who knows, like if he's come back and had some moments with his back, and then it's just like he can't keep it going, and I think that some of it's just like totally unknowable with where he'll be at physically. But if he is on the court, they're going to be good enough to be in all of these games, and they're going to be good enough to climb in the standings. And if you look at the teams above them, what the Blazers need to climb towards is something like 40 wins. I think their schedule, if they just take care of business, has a pretty clean path to 38 wins. They got to find a way to win some of the easier games or some of the more challenging games. If you don't flub any of the winnable games, if you don't accidentally lose to just flub a game against a bad team that doesn't actually want to win anyways, but just like accidentally did it because it's a basketball game, then like their path to 38 wins is pretty easy, and or at least doable. Easy is a little bit disrespectful to like the reality of their situation, but it's doable. You stack a couple like, hey, I didn't think they'd beat Denver or San Antonio in April. Well, then you've got a path to 40. The Blazers, it really is a nice off-ramp for the regular season. Tuesday against Hornets, that's a good team. They've been the best offense in the league since January 1st. And now, because we're so deep into the season, they're a top 5 offense overall in the league. And they're like have an above average net rating among all NBA teams for the whole year, not just like the part where they have been really good. Like they're just a legitimately good team. They've been better on defense than I ever could have possibly expected this season. I know the Hornets haven't been great on this roadie that they're on right now, but that's a good team. And when the Blazers played them last time, Hornets didn't exactly run off and score a ton of points on them, which they have been doing. They only had 109, and they really struggled to score in the first 3 quarters. They just kind of put the Blazers away at the end, and the Blazers just absolutely, under no circumstances, could score in that game. But the Hornets, that's a tough test. And then they play the Jazz on Friday, and the Jazz don't really have interest in winning, and they'll make sure that they do not put particularly good rosters out there. But they can mess around and win. I just watched them win tonight. More on that in a moment. But Hornets, Jazz at home, and then a 5-game road trip that goes through Philly, Brooklyn, Indiana, Minnesota, and Denver. And I think that's the perfect road trip because it starts easy and finishes hard, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want to kick off the road trip with tough, challenging games, and then when you've been on the road for 8 days, and you're playing your 5th game in 8 days in a 5th different city, like, oh, well, this is an easy game against the Nets when you're just exhausted. Like, that's no good. The hard ones are going to be hard regardless. You might as well have them be, it might as well double them up and make the easiest games more winnable. I think that's the best path forward. Some of you may disagree with that theory there, but I do believe it. So yeah, Philly, Brooklyn, Indiana to kick off that road trip after these last 2 games at home. They're in a position, right? They're in a position where it's like you win this game against the Hornets on Tuesday, and like you have a very, very reasonable path, to winning 6 in a row. Like, yeah, it really is there for them. But it's not just the Blazers, and like none of this would be on the table if Denny wasn't healthy, and if Denny is not healthy, none of them. Then you don't get to look up in the standings. So the reality of just like without him is that they do not have enough ways to generate advantages on offense for it to matter. Let's talk Warriors and let's talk Clippers, because those are the two teams the Blazers are chasing down. And I've been tracking them. In fact, I watched the second half of both of their games in full this evening. So let's get into a little bit of Clippers and Warriors standings watch as the Blazers try to track them down. Join me in that second segment, won't you? First, though, let's talk game time. It's a stretch run of the NBA season. There's nothing like being in the building with your fellow fans, with the people you like and the people that you tolerate that you went to the game with. But getting to the game hasn't always been easy because getting tickets hasn't always been simple. That's why Gametime has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with fans that want to go to the games and want to get there without being hassled in doing so. What I like about the Gametime app is that the app is super clean and intuitive to use. So pull up what you want to go to on your phone. I want to go see the Blazers Friday night against the Jazz. Well, the Moda Center map pops up on your phone, and what you see is what you get pricing. So as you're scrolling around, okay, I can sit upstairs for this much money. Oh, if I want to sit downstairs, it's going to be this much money. No surprise fees at checkout. And if you want to see the view from your seat because you've never sat in 214 before, well, guess what? You can click and get a 360 view of your seat right before you cash out. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with NBA Gametime. NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. All right. Thanks for making this show your first listen and living that everyday lifestyle. If you are living that everyday lifestyle, go ahead and join the Locked On Everydayer Club. You get access to the ad-free audio of this podcast. Plus, you can chat up with me in the members-only Discord. It's me. I'm hanging out in there. You can ask questions. Ask your fellow fans that are in there. $5 a month, $50 a year. I locked on blazers.supercast.com. Link in the show notes to learn more. Okay, the Blazers are chasing them down. Can they catch the Warriors? Can they catch the Clippers? I didn't do this for 2 weeks because it's just like, yeah, it's not on the table. I think there feels like there's a little more, I joke that like when the Blazers win and Scoot plays well, it's like Hall of Famer, Cronin cooked, he did it again. But like, I do think just the fact that Scoot Henderson had a positive game and like the Denny Avdia looking a lot like Denny Avdia. He didn't have a super efficient game. He could play a lot better, but he looked like physically a lot more like himself. Makes me think like it is reasonable to look up in the standings and say, yeah, they could catch those teams. And in part because like the Warriors are not healthy. They're 3-6 after the All-Star break. Steph Curry hasn't played since January 30th. He has not played since the end of January. The Warriors are now 5-8 in those games without Steph. Some of those obviously include without Jimmy Butler because he got hurt too. They're beat up, right? They're beat up. They were top heavy to begin with. They've lost their best players. It's Draymond and DeAnthony Melton and Pods, right? And like a lot of Guy Santos. And like a very little bit of Kristaps Porzingis every so often. But they like, I watched the game tonight against the Utah Jazz, and the Jazz did it to him. They did it to him. And Blake Henson, who can really shoot it, but absolutely under no circumstances could he have helped the Portland Trail Blazers at any point this year, hit a huge three-pointer with about a minute and a half left to break open a tie game when neither team could score, stepped into a right-wing three cash. He's got a high-release, straight up and down jump shot. Is built like a linebacker. Hits a huge three. He shot very well with the Utah Jazz. Of course, he played for the Rip City Remix for much of this season. And I want to reiterate, there's no reason to think that his three-point shooting could have helped the Portland Trail Blazers at any point this season. Obviously, it could not have helped. Get that out of your head. What are you, crazy? That is lunacy to suggest that a three-point shooter that plays for your G League affiliate could have been helpful when you had another G Leaguer on the roster that you never played and then waived. Why? Well, I mean, just like, why would they help? But yeah, on a two-way contract with the Utah Jazz, Blake Henson hits a huge three to break open a game, a tied game at 113. Warriors can't score down the stretch because they don't have dudes that can generate a lot of offense, and they lose to the Jazz. They've had this really weird stretch out of the All-Star break where it's like, or excuse me, since Steph has been out, where they have wins over Denver and then win over Houston. And then they have losses to Memphis, New Orleans, and Utah. If the Warriors had just done the sort of take care of business plan, beat all the bad teams, and then like, hey, you steal a couple games from good teams, they would have had a comfortable edge, right? They would have had a comfortable 3-game edge over the Clippers right now, and kind of like be in a really, really good spot heading into the end of this. Instead, because they lost to Memphis, New Orleans, and Utah, like, the Warriors are in a dogfight, right? They're like, it's going to be very tough for them. And it's not clear exactly when Steph Curry is going to be back, but apparently he, according to reporting from ESPN, he texts Draymond Green and said, hold down the fort. I'm coming back, blah, blah, blah. Like, let's not waste this season, all these things. Steph's really good. If he plays, they'll be good, but like, come on now. Memphis, New Orleans, Utah losses. Again, the Blazers have had some bleak moments. That they have not played good basketball, but they haven't dropped any. They don't have a loss post All-Star break that's like troubling, right? They've had some gross games. They've had some beatdowns against good teams, right? Like losing to the Hawks by 25,000, and then losing to the Nuggets before that by 250,000. Like those are troubling losses, but like in terms of like, might they lose those games? Yeah. The binary, right? Those are losable games. The Clippers, like I said, finally back to 500. They're 6-4 post All-Star. Ben Matherin's been very Ben Mathurin for them. He scores a bunch of points. He's not particularly efficient, but every so often you watch him and he does something like a very physical drive to the rim, scoring through contact. And you're like, yeah, he's good. And then you also watch him do that and like not make a read to throw to a wide open three to someone, spotted on the weak side or he's just very Ben Mathurin. He has some undeniable skills, but he's a frustrating player in terms of feeling the game at full speed. But like he's helped. I think they said on the broadcast, I was on one of the networks, Prime, I think it was on one of the hard to watch networks, that he leads all players in bench points after the All-Star break. So Matherin's helped, no doubt about it. And Darius Garland played in this game, and now that he's back, like the Clippers aren't. They're not like good. I wouldn't say that, but they're not a bad team, right? They can beat anyone because Kawhi at certain moments is the best player in the league. I mean, he can turn it on to be. I think he's maybe the best American player in the league right now. He's up there. But like they're even post James Harden, they're a good enough basketball team. And I really think it's going to come down for the Clippers and the Blazers. They play twice. Once on March 31st and once on April 10th, which is the penultimate game of the season. It's very it's not odd, but it is rare in the league. To have those like final couple games be like really meaningful, though that game might be really meaningful. That might be real. Like usually, you get 3 across the league that are like teams jockeying for position that happen to play each other in the final 2 or 3 games. Clippers and Blazers might be that game on April 10th. That might be like a legitimately very big game, and that'll be that one that could decide standings, could decide like if the Clippers or Blazers are on the 7-8 line or 9-10 line, or if they're both in the 9-10 line, if they're playing home or away in a play-in game, like that's going to be a big game. I imagine if the Blazers stay healthy and the Clippers stay healthy, that those 2 games will basically decide their distance, because you get to, it's a big jump in the standings winning head to head. Obviously you split them, it's kind of a wash, but if you can, the Blazers will have a chance. Those are like sort of control your own destiny type of games. The Blazers, of course, have won the season series against the Warriors, so if those 2 teams end up tied, then the Blazers will cruise. Blazers, and here's what they got left: 17, including 9 at home and 8 on the road. This 5-game road trip and then 7 of 10 to close. So Hornets, Jazz, five gamer on the road, and then 7 of 10 to at the Moda Center to wrap this thing up. They've got a shot. Warriors, they've got 18 left, 9-9, 9 at home, 9 on the road. Clippers, 18 left, 11 at home, 7 on the road. Crafted NBA has the Blazers with the easiest remaining schedule, the Clippers with the third easiest remaining schedule, and the Warriors with the 8th easiest. So Warriors, as it looks right now, projecting forward a little bit harder. I think the relative difference in ease of schedules is hard to know into the future, but I think both the Clippers and Blazers have relatively easy schedules. Like I would say, comparatively easy schedules remaining. So I think that's what you need to know, and we'll check back in on this. We'll follow this for the rest of the year because, again, if the Blazers have this group that they had on Sunday, they are good enough to look up in the standings, and with only a game and a half back of the 8th seed with 17 left. It is right there for them. They just have to take care of business. No bad losses, and they're going to be no bad losses. And you either win a game against a team that a legitimately good playoff team, or you meet a legitimately good playoff team on a night when they do not care to win and they gift you a bad roster to play against. Take it and hide, run away with it. That's the path. Like you played the Nuggets and the Spurs at the end of the year in April, and like maybe seeding is wrapped up, or whatever it might be. And the West is pretty crowded in the middle, so I don't know if that will happen, but there is a chance that is the case. So that's what they got left. Okay. Sidy Cissoko and Jerami Grant are both fasting during Ramadan. So I talked to both of them in the locker room on Sunday about what it is like to play the demanding NBA schedule while limiting your eating hours to before the sun rises and after it sets. And they offered some interesting insights into both the technical and personal approach to fasting during Ramadan. I'll talk about that in the third segment. Join me there, won't you? First, though, let's talk about TurboTax. It's tax time, and for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes it's a lot. Trying to book an appointment, that's not the most convenient. Sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And it's just like that. You're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in, meeting a real person, and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today. Today's program is also brought to you by the good folks over there at FanDuel. And you may have heard of this month. It is called March. It is the month where many of us appreciate college basketball for the first and only time. And if you are someone who is appreciating college basketball for the first and only time this season, well, FanDuel would love for you to appreciate with their app and also their website. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that appreciation into an even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. So you can build any college hoops parlay you want, games, or player props or anything, and then you can even mix and match the games and spreads and all of that and build your elaborate parlay, and then you can apply a profit boost and it instantly will bump up your payout potential. Go safe, go bold, ride with a team you love, short a team that you hate. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. So this is why you join the members only Discord. This is why you join the Locked On Everydayer Club, and then you can get in the Discord and come chat up with me because listener Val, Discord member Val, said like, hey, I think that Sidy Cissoko might be fasting during Ramadan. And I said, I'll look into it. And not only did I find out that Sidy has been fasting during Ramadan, is something that's been part of his professional basketball journey for a few years. I found out that Jerami Grant has also converted Islam 3 years ago and has been spending the last 3 Ramadans in season fasting during the daylight hours. So I went and talked to both of them about what that's like. So join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get in on the inside. Help make being a Blazer fan more interesting by being a curious Blazer fan and having someone who can go ask the questions you want answered. That's kind of our relationship here. And that's your access to do it. So Sidy has been fasting as a professional basketball player. He said he really started doing it. It's been part of, it's raised an Islamic household and it's been part of his life for, as from early age, but he started being part of his sort of professional life when he was in Spain and kind of figuring out how to balance as like a professional basketball player, and that was during the 21-22 season, with spending a 30-day month each year. It's the lunar calendar, so it doesn't match up with our calendar here, or like the Gregorian calendar used by many of us who like have bank-based jobs. But like spending a 30-day cycle not eating when the sun is up and the sun is down, and I asked Sidy about it, like did he. What does he do to sort of prepare for it? He says, he sees it as an opportunity, as he sees it as a chance to do something that is sort of a commitment to your faith, a commitment to doing something that is hard, a commitment to having a sort of a personal challenge that proves your not proves, that's not the right word, but shows your sort of personal faith and a journey that you will undertake on your own, and your sort of relationship with a higher power. I asked him if he had talked to other players about it. He said, not really. And then I was curious about like how, if he hadn't, discussed it with other NBA guys, sort of how he started doing. He said he kind of just did it trial by error. Like, he's like, in the early on his professional career playing in Spain, it's like, let's see how I can do this. And now he said he's got a little more dialed. Like he understands, about the NBA is a little bit different. He was talking about just sort of the amount of travel in the league makes it harder because with changing time zones means that you have to track the sun a little bit different, and you're sort of also maybe chasing the sun or while you're on an airplane overnight, and it can be challenging with back-to-backs and all of that road travel. In fact, Sidy said that when they got back really late, heading into the Sunday game with daylight savings time, heading into the Sunday game against Indiana, that it kind of did challenge him a little bit, just physically, like in terms of waking up and getting the amount of food he needed to be ready to play. He said he was going to eat a little bit during the day on Sunday just to take care of his body, right? Because he just says, I've been sick the last week. I got to take care of myself. Like this is important. And I mentioned I asked him if he had kind of discuss the process with anyone. He said, he doesn't, because he thinks it's a very personal journey. Like that's what was really important to him, was a really personal journey. And I asked Jerami Grant sort of a similar line of questions. Sidy said he's not a big eater. Like he doesn't wake up and eat a giant breakfast, and he'll have food ready for him after the game when he gets home. But he's not because of the way sort of the timing works. The sun sets right before tip-off is not exactly great time to cram a bunch of food if you're going to go play an NBA basketball game. So, he hadn't eaten, and he was going to have to go eat a real meal after the game, although he had done some light snacking sort of during the day on Sunday when I was specifically talking to him, just for sort of like taking care of his body, health reasons. Jerami Grant said he converted to Islam 3 years ago. And he told me that two things that I found very interesting and very Jerami Grant is that I asked him sort of if he had talked to other NBA players. And why I asked him that is because I remember when Enes Kanter was here in Portland, is that he said that he did reach out to a couple of Muslim players in the league and say hey, how did you do this? What's the best way to just sort of take care of your body during Ramadan, right? I want to fast. It's important to me. It's important to my faith. It's all these things, but how best, I'm 7 foot, 300 pounds. How do I do this and guard Nikola Jokic in the playoffs? And he had talked a little bit to a couple players, including Hakeem Olajuwon, and kind of got some insight. So I figured that was relatively common, right? Reach out to folks who had experienced before and understand sort of the demands of an NBA schedule and all that, right? And so when I asked Jerami Grant about it, in a very Jerami Grant answer, he said, like, I don't want to ask anyone because not only is it personal, but it's for me. Like, the part of what I'm doing is figuring out how it works for me, and that is how he views like the month of Ramadan and sort of one of the pillars of Islam is fasting during the month of Ramadan, and like why it is important to follow that the way you do it, much like Sidy said, very personal. And then when I was sort of pressing Jerami on a little bit and saying like, well, it's like you're going to play 38 minutes, you're going to get on a plane. Like, do you talk to nutritionists? Guys talk to nutritionists all the time, not about fasting, but about like, where can I get my calories, just to like take care of myself. And Jerami said, I think when you make it technical, it loses some of its value. And I thought that was a very interesting Jerami Grant insight, is that he views it as not only personal, but like specifically doesn't want it to be technical about calorie intake and all of those things. Jerami says he wakes up, he told me on Sunday, he woke up at because of the time change, about 4:30, had a bagel, some eggs. He drinks a ton of water during the day, right when the sun goes down before the game starts. Sidy mentioned this as well. Eat a couple dates. And then after the game, Jerami said he had maybe a salad and like a wrap waiting at his house or something. He knew he had some food ready, prepared to go eat. But importantly, he said like his stomach is so small during this fasting period that he's just not starving. He's not eating these like Olympic-sized breakfasts and trying to get through the day. He is pushing forward with like this sort of the rhythm that he has figured out on his own personal journey to do this to play at a pretty high level and play a bunch of minutes. He's playing a lot more, starters minutes, more than Sidy, while fasting throughout the day. And he's when I was chatting with him after the game, he said, I have this beet juice, and then I'm going to go home and haven't eaten all day. I've had a couple dates in this beet juice, and I'm going to go home and eat, and then I'm going to go to but the big thing is, just stay committed to it, because the sort of the commitment is the whole process. That's why you're doing it, is because you are staying the finding your rhythm in the commitment is what makes it brings you closer to as sort of a religious practice, brings you closer to your higher power as a religious practice. I thought it was fascinating. It is a unique journey, and like, Sidy and Jerami aren't really discussing how are you doing? They're just like, okay, we're both doing this, and we're going on our personal journeys. I think their teammates are like vaguely aware of it, but it is not a sort of a big thing to celebrate. It is just a quiet, private practice that both of them are going through. And I found it fascinating, and that I was, they were open with chatting with me, and I appreciate their willingness to discuss it with someone who's like a total novice in the area, I appreciate their time. So thanks to Jerami and Sidy, and thanks again to Val in the Discord for pointing that one out. It's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts. Also on YouTube, Blazers play the Hornets tomorrow evening. Next time you hear my voice, we'll recap everything that happened in that game. I appreciate you listening. I will talk to you soon.